Season 2, Episode 14 of the Belleville Sens podcast. It is a Tuesday morning that we're recording this, and Sens goalies are on the ice, which means practice is only about 15 minutes away, and as the guys go through the motions on the ice, Brock and I will go through the last couple of weeks, recap the run that the Senators have been on, putting themselves solidly in third place in the AHL's North Division. We're under 20 games to go. There's a school day game this week, another matchup with Utica, and then back home next week for some more important games on the stretch drive to the Calder Cup playoffs. So looking forward to getting everybody caught up. We've had a couple of weeks off because of some travel, and Brock's other gig keeps him at City Hall still covering budgets. So glad to be back this week. David Foote and Brock Ormond here on the Belleville Sens podcast, the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. Toss us a rating and a review. That'd be much appreciated as well. It's kind of crazy to think about it, Brock, but we're into the final now, like 18 or so games of the season. The playoffs are in sight. The AHL started publishing the daily playoff primer, which means that postseason hockey is right around the corner, and Belleville Sens are right in the thick of things.
Absolutely, they are, and they had a pretty good run as of late. 5 wins in their last 6, which was only blemished by a 4-1 loss to Rochester on Friday. So only one setback at this point in the year. That's all you can ask for when you bank points in 5 out of 6 games, so you get 10 out of 12. That's always what you want to see at this point in the season, and Dave Bell's got his boys rolling pretty well, sitting right up there in the North Division, rather, only a couple points behind Syracuse and Cleveland. If Belleville can go on a nice hot run here and try and steal some points away from these crucial games upcoming against Toronto and Utica, teams that are beneath them in the standings, then they'll be putting themselves in a real prime position to take away third place. But it's those games against Toronto and Laval and all that they need to absolutely steal. They only have a trio of games left against teams not in their division. So if there's anything that Belleville needs is to bank those points early on. They've played exceptionally well defensively. In Saturday's game, we'll talk about it a bit more. One of the best, if not the best, defensive effort of the year for my money against the Rochester Americans. A great way to rebound after what was a really tough Friday game. Yeah,
Saturday was our Pride Night as well here at CAA Arena. We will chat with the chair of Bay of Quinte Pride in this week's episode. We'll also hear from the reigning AHL Player of the Month, Angus Crookshank, who was afforded that honor after putting up 14 points or so in 12 games over February, helping the Sens to a 9-3 record last month, their best month of the season. And this is exactly the time of year when you want to start seeing those accolades and seeing those types of numbers in the win column. 9-3 is nothing to shrug at, especially when you look at the amount of time that the Belleville Sens spent on the road. Their road record has been outstanding of late.
Yeah, it has been, and that's the key thing, too, is knowing that you can play in those tough buildings like what you're going to see tomorrow with the Coca-Cola Coliseum, Toronto and Laval and Place Bell. Syracuse is always tough. All those New York teams tend to be tough as well. They draw really well. They get a lot of really good crowds, and it's a good team to back, too. So if the Belleville Sens can find any way to get those points against teams on the road in some hostile buildings and hostile environments, then that'll put themselves in a great position. And they know that once they get into those nitty-gritty times of the year and maybe into the playoffs, they know they can just shield out all the noise, block out all the distractions, and just win and just play their game and win. And that's what Dave Bell has really preached to his team all year long. I mean, it's great to win at home. Obviously, you don't want to hurt yourself at home either in front of your home crowd, and they didn't do that really last week. They played really well, but those road games are going to be so crucial, and they want to start it at home too. They want to try and get that advance ahead to win a game, and then go into a road building and know that they can come back or battle through a tight game if need be to win. So the Belleville Sens will have a great test Wednesday against the Toronto Marlies in what's going to be a much louder environment than usual. I know the school day game is always a popular part of the agenda or part of the schedule for these teams. So see if Belleville can battle through that too.
Popular for the home team, I'm sure. It's a little bit different for the Senators, who, again, they will travel this afternoon. Again, we're recording this as of Tuesday, March the 5th. The game is at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, March the 6th. and the guys will go to Toronto this afternoon. They'll be downtown. They'll be ready to go. And it's an experience, to say the least, to play in one of those school day games. And, it's always important to take the visiting crowd out of it, but maybe more so tomorrow with 8,000 screaming kids that the Sens will have to deal with. We'll touch on tomorrow and the playoff picture and what's to come a little bit later on in the program. Let's recap, folks, on the last couple of weeks. Just a brief recap on what you missed in the weeks that we did not do shows. There was a home game against Syracuse and Toronto, and then a road game in Utica, and the Sens, I think, picked up 4 of 6 points on that run. The win against Syracuse at home and against Utica on the road. The Marlies came in with a victory here at CAA Arena back on February 16th. And then the Hershey Bears on Family Day. Great day. Didn't really go as the Sens would have liked, with the league leaders basically showing why they lead the league and why they've only lost like 10 games all season long. But Belleville rebounded nicely from that. They went on the road to upstate New York last week and picked up 6 points, a pair of wins in Rochester and then one in Syracuse, staying perfect against the Crunch. Points in now after the Amherst came here, points in all but one game against Rochester this season. That's because Utica was here, and Sens with a 3-0 shutout. And then the Friday-Saturday, as Brock mentioned, a loss to Rochester Friday, a win against the Amherst on Saturday. I think the biggest thing for Belleville right now is they're finding that consistency. You know you're not going to win every game, but the key, and we've talked about this from the start of the season, the key is you go on a big run, you lose one, and you just don't let things slide too many games the other way. And Belleville's been pretty good at stopping the bleeding when they do have, let's say, an off night. Yeah,
absolutely. Nice bounce back, too, to go into Rochester, win 2 big ones at the Blue Cross Arena after that loss to Hershey. But even in that game, David, the Belleville Sens competed with the Hershey Bears. Yeah, they fell behind 3-0 at one point in the game. And, yeah, they were never really in a threatening mode to try and take a lead or at least tie the game, but they certainly were not outclassed by the Hershey Bears. They were competitive. They played them tough. It was not an easy game for the Bears. They had to really protect their star players, and it was a guy, Hendrix Lapierre, that had only scored a couple goals coming into the game. He ends up with a hat trick, and that was really the difference. And but the Belleville Sens have played those teams so tough, and that can kind of be a wake-up call to the rest of the league, that if this is a top team in the AHL and the Sens are keeping it to within 1 or 2 goals of them, then that's a dangerous threat to the rest of the league, although they only play the North Division almost exclusively the rest of the way. But it's a call to the North Division that this Belleville team is not to be messed with, and we've talked about it before, and other teams have talked about it, that the Belleville Senators are one of the most difficult teams to play, especially when they have all their guys in, their top guys, their whole lineup, all in the mix. So the Sens definitely have the league's number. They have everybody on watch, and now it's just all about making sure that they fulfill that type of play that they've been used to over the course of the next probably about a month and a half or so, or almost.
Rochester Americans head coach Seth Appert was asked about the Senators before the Amherst came here to Belleville last week, and he was coming off a loss to the Syracuse Crunch, and he said, you know what? I think that Syracuse and Belleville are almost carbon copies. Like you said, Brock, they're tough to play against. In his words, they're heavy. I like going back to the quote that they're extremely old, is what Seth Appert had said, but then circled that back to the fact that at the time there were 8 veterans on the team. We're back to 6 now because both Zach McHugh and Rourke Chartier have been recalled to Ottawa in recent days. We'll have more on that coming up. But this is an identity that this team has been trying to forge from the start of the season. And we asked assistant coach Chris Dennis after one of the games on the weekend, what it's like to kind of hear that, the identity that you're trying to forge is proving true. And he was happy to hear it, that all the work that this team is putting in to play a certain way, to find results a certain way is getting noticed, and people aren't really looking forward, frankly, to playing the Belleville Senators.
No, and that's a good thing. You don't want to have a team coming in that people say, oh yeah, I believe we can win this game. This is a winnable game. You never want to hear that one, especially not in a professional setting where you got a lot of people with a lot of pride and a lot of guys that really want to win, and they want to have respect to their opponents. So when you go up against teams that they feel they can win against you, then that gives you kind of that little extra boost and that push and that prideful little poke to get yourself into the win column. But those are some nice words and nice respectful words from Seth Appert to say that this Belleville team is tough and they play the same way as one of the top teams, and eventually the Belleville Sens will be a number one division winning team in the North Division. It's only a matter of time, especially if Dave Bell and company stick it out here and really build and foster that environment, that winning culture that everybody wants to have here. And CAA Arena has been good to the Belleville Sens this year, so they're hoping to keep that going, especially with, again, a lot of points on the table, and they can't afford too many 3-point games or too many losses in regulation at this point of the year.
So let's get you the recap of things before we take a break and get into our interview block this week, which again will feature chat with Lynn Olson, the chair of the Bay of Quinte Pride Committee. That was from our Pride game last weekend, presented by Magna Autosystems, and Angus Crookshank, who I know we've heard from a lot this season, but when you're having a year like Crooker is, you're going to talk to him a lot. And he was honored as the AHL's Player of the Month for February, so we'll hear from him as well. Just the second Belleville Sens player to win that honor. Josh Norris did it back in February of 2020. February seems to be a good month for the Sens. Drake Batherson won Rookie of the Month in February 2019. Philip Gustafson won Goaltender of the Month in January of 2020. And Mads Sogard won Goaltender of the Month back in October of this year. So this season, I should say, not this calendar year. So lots of accolades to talk about. Angus Crookshank and Lynn Olson coming up. But here is the quick rundown, because we'll get into the playoff picture in our final segment as well on this week's show. But as of right now, Belleville sits in third place in the North Division. They're 3 points up on Rochester after that successful weekend. Last weekend, Angus Crookshank still leads the team in points and goals with 43 and 22 respectively. Max Gannett still the team assist leader. He's up to 24 this year. 8 power play goals for Igor Sokolov. Rourke Chartier joins the shorthanded goal group. Chartier, Crookshank, Ostapchuk, and Pilon have all scored while down a man this year. Tyler Clevin has the team best plus 11 rating, which is still extremely impressive for a rookie defenseman in this league. And Mads Sogard, the club's top goaltender as of right now, 2.45 goals against and a .919 save percentage. That gets us into transactions this week, and there have been a bunch. Sogard back up in Ottawa with some illness and injury going around the goaltending core. Up with the big club, injuries to Josh Norris and others have led to the recall of Zach McEwen. And as mentioned this morning, Rourke Chartier just went up. Max Gannett and Levi Marilainen each went up and down, and they are back with the Belleville Sens right now. Mark Sinclair, goaltender from the ECHL Allen Americans on an AHL deal, back up and down with the club. Maybe up again Wednesday if needed, because there is a bit of a flu bug going around. And with 2 forwards going up, you got to fill a hole. Taryn Fizer returns from the ECHL as well, which is funny because we were just talking about him on the weekend. Yeah, he had a goal in the game for Allen, for the Allen Americans, and it's a great place for Taryn Fizer to really develop and grow as a player and learn kind of the ins and outs of the professional game, and he's got some time up here with the AHL's Belleville Sens, but getting him in Allen with a bit of a crunch, better to get him some ice time in a lower level or one rung below versus having him sit up here with the Belleville Sens and potentially only play once every maybe 3 or 4 games. It's definitely not ideal for his development. So nice to see him come back, and he gets a goal, and he ends up being brought back to Belleville for his efforts. So nice job for Taryn Fizer, well deserved. Again, all the latest roster info and updates can be found at theahl.com. You can also check the news tab at BellevilleSens.com. Click the digital press box. You can find our latest media notes, player bios, and more from those sites as well. So the Senators getting set for a matchup with the Toronto Marlies in Toronto on Wednesday morning. I still have to go back in the old archives to see if the Senators have played a school day game before. If they have, it's been on the road. I know for sure we haven't had one here at home. But either way, that's what's in store. We'll tee that up a little bit later on. When we come back into our talk block, if you will, we'll be joined by Lynn Olson, the chair of Bay of Quinte Pride, and the reigning February AHL Player of the Month, Angus Crookshank. As we head to break, here's the highlight of the week. Garrett Pilon scoring on the power play to get the Sens going on Saturday against the Rochester Americans. Curry down for Crookshank and back out again. Curry walks into the circle, puts it into the slot, they score! A howitzer from Garrett Pilon on the power play starts things off, and the Senators are on the board. It's 1-0 Belleville.
Garrett Pilon, the trigger man in the slot, and they had him all set up perfectly. Had to make sure that he was seeing through all that traffic in the slot area, but they find Pilon open, and he lets one rip. Nice walk off the half wall by Josh Curry. He sets up Pilon for the big blast, and Levi was too slow to react to it. Nice and tight under the bar, bulges the twine, and
Stay ahead of the game. Plan now for the next season of Belleville Senators hockey. 2024-25 renewals and new seat packages are on sale now. Visit BellevilleSens.com to receive information on pricing and learn about the exclusive benefits season seat members receive. Because you want to be in on all Sens hockey action. Plan to get in the game. More on season seat memberships at BellevilleSens.com. Go Sens, go!
Episode 14, Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast rolls on. David Footbrock, Ormond here. We've got you caught up on how the third-place Senators have been faring over the last couple of weeks. Again, an outstanding February. Some individual accolades for a handful of the players, including Angus Crookshank, who we'll talk to in about 10 minutes or so about winning the February Player of the Month award. But before we get into Crooker, Sens hosted their Pride Night on Saturday, presented by Magna Autosystems, sharing the message that hockey is for everyone. Again, we continue to preach that message. We want Belleville Sens games to be an open and inclusive and inviting, a safe, a comfortable place for hockey fans of all ages, creeds, races, religions to be able to come and enjoy the action. And that was really the message on Saturday as we celebrated Pride Night, along with members of the Bay of Quinte Pride Committee. And the chair of the Bay of Quinte Pride Committee, Lynn Olson, took some time to sit down with us at the intermission to chat a little bit about their initiatives, about what it's been like seeing the growth, the evolution of Bay of Quinte Pride, the change in attitudes from people around the Quinte region in terms of that group and what they're doing. And she'll join us here next on the Belleville Sens podcast, episode 14 of Season 2. This is Lynn Olson, the chair of the Bay of Quinte Pride Committee.
Well, thanks for inviting us out here. It's great to be here again. We were here last year. We had a fantastic time. So we are truly stoked to do this again. We brought some more vendors in. We brought some more folks in. They're going to do the puck drop for us. Can't wait. Yeah,
it's going to be a big night. And it's nice to be able to kind of build on these things. As you said, you were here last year. We're doing something a little different this year. But maybe before we get into what's happening here tonight, tell us a little bit about the Bay of Quinte Pride Committee and maybe some background on the organization.
Well, the Bay of Quinte Pride started unofficially. It was started by the Say Out Loud Kids, which is a group for youth, questioning youth, queer, LGBTQ youth in the area, in the Belleville area. Eric Hargreaves is a facilitator of Say Out Loud, and in 2012 they decided that Belleville needed their own parade, so they walked from downtown to Zwick's Park. Now, they tried to get permits and they tried to get all the paperwork done, but realized how much paperwork was involved and how much it would cost. And they said, you know what, we'll just walk on the sidewalk. And they had their posters, and they ended with a friendly picnic at Zwick's, and that's how it all started.
Wow, and it's obviously grown from there. I worked in the newsroom at Quinte Broadcasting prior to this, and I know we followed those events closely. But how has the organization kind of grown since that time?
It's gotten a lot more organized. We find last year was kind of the seat of our pants. There was some issues going on within the committee. It's all been resolved. We have a good, strong, solid committee this year, so we believe it's going to be better than ever. We have assigned tasks. We have gotten ahead of the game on permits, on events that we want to see happen, on possible drag shows. I won't give away too much, but there's
Okay.
some really cool stuff coming this year.
Yeah, it's and obviously, like, as the organization grows, you'll be more visible. I think people will get more used to seeing the organization out doing things. What is the reaction like for your group when you're out putting these events on?
For the most part, it's very positive. We did 2 Santa Claus parades this year, one in Quinte West and one here. There were some not so positive reactions.
Sure.
Belleville, though, was extremely supportive. We got a lot of, hey, we support, hey, go Pride. It was nice to see, and we are finding that for the most part, it is very supportive.
Yeah, I think unfortunately you're always going to get
Yes.
those people that don't see things,
Yep.
I'll say the right way, but
Yep.
that look at things differently, I suppose. But it does, at least to me, it kind of seems like that acceptance and even just the knowledge and awareness is growing year to year.
A lot of it is knowledge and awareness. Some people just don't understand a lot of the terminology. They don't understand what it's all about. They think it's a lifestyle or a choice. It is not. Queer people are born that way.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. There is no choice. They just know what they are, who they are, and all we want to do is help them be their most authentic selves. Mm-hmm. That's the most important. As an ally, that's all I want to see is people being their most authentic self, living their best life.
Yeah, we're chatting with Lynn Olson, the chair of Bay of Quinte Pride Committee. Are you finding that some of those LGBTQ plus youth, maybe in particular, are looking for a group to kind of join, somewhere that they can go to be around, people, like-minded people, and find that acceptance that maybe they don't always get?
Yes, it's easier now than it used to be. I will say that. Belleville acceptance has grown exponentially over the last, I've seen it in 10 years.
Yeah.
The support has grown quite a bit. There, like I said, there is the one group, Say Out Loud. They meet every Tuesday at Christ Church in Belleville from 5 to 8, I believe. They've been around for 30 years. They are just terrific. There are members there who have been in that group for 30 years, and they still go because it's a safe space. It's home. There are a few safe spaces around town. I know the schools are beginning to create groups, inclusivity groups. I know City Hall has an inclusivity division at this point.
Yep.
So you're seeing it more and more and more, and that is good because we do want our children to be safe and to feel welcome wherever
absolutely.
they are. They are who they are. You cannot tell them that they are not what they know they are.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, they just know.
And that's part of what we're doing tonight in continuing to spread that message. And again, we use the hashtag, the slogan, whatever you will. Hockey is for everyone, and that transcends Pride Night to Black History Month to Women in Hockey Night. It is all about just making people feel welcome and growing the community really, and for us around the hockey club. Tell us a little bit about what's going on here tonight. We've got a vendors market, which maybe some people might think that's kind of an odd thing, but obviously, it's important to support those LGBTQ plus owned businesses.
Absolutely, and they're not necessarily all LGBTQ owned.
Sure.
But I know they're all allies. They have all been at Pride in the Park 2 years now. So we do have 8 vendors, including ourselves here, with a variety of homemade items, and our Pride stuff obviously is not homemade. I won't say where we got it, but
Sure.
It's fun stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff there, and the other vendors, most of theirs are homemade. They are local businesses, so it's nice to support them. When Marie asked me if I could round up some vendors, I said, how many do you need?
Yeah.
Because I got like 100. She says, well, let's do 8. Okay. So I had 8 within a day who definitely wanted to be here.
Yeah, and that's great to have them here. How important are these kind of events in, I guess, growing the awareness about what you guys are doing and again, just kind of fostering that sense of community and acceptance?
Well, you know what? The queer community has always been here. It will always be here. Just because you didn't know about it 30 years ago doesn't mean it wasn't there. It just was frowned upon.
Right.
People were killed. People were beaten up just for being gay. It's the same as people of color, indigenous people. We are just people. Mm-hmm. That is all. We are all here. We are just the same as you are. We just want to live our lives.
Yeah.
That's all. We don't want special treatment. We want equal.
Yeah. That's all anybody should want, right? That's
we want to be
absolutely.
able to walk down the street holding hands.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys have coming up, maybe some of the big events on the horizon. And I know we were talking just before we went on here about the need for volunteers as well.
We do need volunteers. We always need volunteers. Right now, specifically, we are looking for a couple people to help with our website development. It is outdated, we admit that, and we're just struggling with time on that. So we are looking for a couple of volunteers who are proficient in technology, because I am not.
Okay.
So that would be nice. Throughout the Pride season, though, we always need people to man the tables, to run the errands, to do decorating, to do whatever. Just be vocal, be out there, and hit us up at our Facebook page, Bay of Quinte Pride, or email us, chair@bayofquintepride.ca. Hit up our website, even though it's kind of old and deleted, whatever, but it's still there. It does work. We will get your messages.
Amazing. You guys are doing fantastic work. We're so glad to have you here to celebrate with us tonight, and appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us.
Well, thank you so much for having us. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
love this. I love this. This is all we want to do. Just be here.
That's it. And
that's it.
We're happy to have you here. That was Lynn Olson, the chair of Bay of Quinte Pride. Always nice to catch up with Lynn and to find out about what's happening with that group rock. You and I have worked in newsrooms in this community for a decade or so at least. And I remember when Bay of Quinte Pride kind of first started doing their thing a little bit more mainstream. As Lynn told us, they've been around a long, long time. But, it wasn't until more recently that the Pride Parade started, and we started to see a lot more of that out in the open, so to speak. Really great work that group does, and making a huge difference for the LGBTQ plus community here in the Quinte region.
Yeah, and that's great, and it's outstanding to see all the initiatives that Lynn and her team have done. See them out with their rainbow colors in the Pride Parade every June, every summer. It's wonderful to see, and it's not just people from the LGBTQ community; it's everybody that's out there. The inclusive space is for everyone. It truly is everybody involved, all for one for all, and that's amazing to see. And it shows that, Belleville Sens itself, like getting out there and being a part of that, because they're part of the community, and that's the whole point of it is to bring the community together and bring different pieces of the puzzle that normally wouldn't be together and fit those pieces in. So it's awesome to see, and all the work that they're doing definitely will not be stopping over the next decade or more. The Quinte region and Belleville in particular is going to be really honored and buoyed to have those people in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if you want to learn more about Bay of Quinte Pride, what they're up to, if you want to volunteer, because Lynn says there's big-time need for volunteers, just head to their Facebook page, and you can find out all about that. And again, thanks to Lynn for her time, and thanks to Magna Autosystems for their support, again, of Pride Night. They've been a regular supporter of that event for us over the last couple of seasons. Looking back at the hockey, mentioned it a bunch of times in the last segment, but Angus Crookshank, the reigning defending February Player of the Month. He did leave the game on Saturday with an injury, and no update as of yet on Crooker's condition, but we got a chance to talk to him after being named Player of the Month. Yet another recognition for the North Vancouver, BC native, named to the AHL All-Star team this year, represented the North Division, scored a couple goals out there, comes home a couple weeks later and now gets this honor. Of course, he's Belleville's leading scorer. He's been their best player without argument, and he's our guest next on this episode of the Belleville Sens podcast, the February Player of the Month for 2023. 2024, I should say. It's Angus Crookshank. Yet another accolade to hang your hat on. How does that sound?
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise today. I'm not sure I was really expecting it, but kind of a cool moment.
And maybe just a little bit more proof that the hard work is paying off?
Yeah, yes and no. At the end of the day, what's more important here is winning hockey games, right? So all I can do is just come and put my best foot forward along with my teammates and try to get into the playoffs here.
It is a difficult award to win. You're only the second player in franchise history to win Player of the Month. Josh Norris did it in February of 2020. To kind of see yourself, I guess, joining that sort of group. Drake Batherson was the Rookie of the Month in 2019. What does that kind of mean to you in terms of your development and maybe assuring that you're kind of on a similar path to those guys?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, it can be assuring and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, my journey is completely different than anybody else's journey, right? And each guy has their own way of getting, everybody has the goal of getting to the National Hockey League, and each guy has their own individual route of getting there. So all I can do is just kind of stick to my route and see where it takes me.
Speaking of your journey, a couple pretty nice features done by Garrett and the video team from your time out at the All-Star Classic, and some outstanding sound bites from your mom as well. How did you find that interview? How nice was it to have the family there? And have you gotten any flack maybe from the guys from having mom in the interview with you?
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten any flack yet. But you know what? Having that moment with my mom and my girlfriend and some friends of mine was pretty special. Yeah, it was. She's always good for a couple really kind of. I don't know, my mom's very good at, she always speaks the truth, like kind of Shakespearean in a little way, I guess. But you know what, she's been her and my dad have been my biggest supporters since day one, right? And I wouldn't be here today without them, and there's no way I'm ever going to be able to thank them enough for everything they've done for me.
Yeah, and you can really feel the sincerity, obviously, when she speaks about how proud she is of you and your accomplishments. And as we said off the top, as she should be, it's been an incredible year for you. Looking at this team and how things are going right now, 4-game win streak, another couple here against the Amherst. How do you guys kind of keep this rolling? And do you feel like you're maybe starting to peak at the right time with 20 games left?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's still 20 games left, so anything can change. As we know, in the North Division, you can go from 2nd to 5th in one night, right? So lots of things can change, but I mean, we just kind of, at the end of the day, we got to worry about ourselves, right? I mean, obviously, Rochester's got a very talented team over there, but you know, if we stick to our game plan and kind of play Belleville Senators hockey, we like our chances.
And a lot of divisional games to come, but the record against the division has been pretty good this year as well. Do you guys have a fair amount of confidence going into this stretch run?
Yeah, you know what? Bellsy's kind of been preaching it for a while, just how important these divisional games are. So whether it's, I don't know, whether we're playing in our own minds, like playoff hockey in a way, because, I mean, like I just said, the North Division's a little crazy in that sense. So kind of after that All-Star break, it is a sprint to the playoffs, and anything can change at any given moment. So, yeah, I think just kind of having that mindset where every game matters, there's no nights off, and just come to put our work boots on every night.
Yeah, this team is getting a reputation as a hardworking, physical, tough-to-play against team. Obviously, you guys embrace that. How heated are these divisional rivalries as well? Because a few of them have been, pretty physical affairs. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, it's a physical division to begin with. But, I mean, when you play teams 7, 8, 9, 10 times, it's you're going to get kind of individual rivalries between guys, between different teams. So it's, you know what, it makes the games interesting, and I'm sure as a fan, the fans enjoy it too.
Any different now after playing with a couple of these guys at the All-Star Classic a few weeks back?
Yes and no. I mean, I talked to them after the game, but once the puck's dropped, it's no friends. I mean, my dad's been preaching that to me since day one.
Yeah, you got to keep that in mind for sure. A couple more minutes here with Sens forward Angus Crookshank. You guys had obviously good results against Rochester last week. What do you expect out of them tonight, and how do you kind of counter what they're about to bring as they've lost 4 in a row?
Yeah, you know what, they're gonna come out hard. I mean, they're an incredibly talented, fast team. So we're gonna have to be sound defensively. I mean, they can put up 5 very easily on you. So as long as we kind of stick to our details and play from our net out, we like our chances.
And I know you've already been asked this on the Locked On Sens podcast the other day, but I'm going to ask as well. You had the empty netter against Utica the other day, and pretty clear breakaway. Was there any consideration to mimicking Ridley Gregg from the other week?
You know what, I got to be honest, I thought about it for a half second, but then I know we play Utica a couple more times, and I got some friends in that team, so I'm not gonna start something quite yet.
Yeah, I kind of figured the same thing, but it's obviously raising some eyebrows and something else to think about, I guess, anytime you got a chance at the empty net.
Yeah, you know what, I don't know, it's my first empty net goal, I think, in a couple of years, so haven't been in those moments very often, but maybe it'll cross my mind down the road.
We'll have to see. Thanks for the time, Crooker. Congrats again on another fantastic achievement.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So there's Crooker again, one of the most humble guys you'll meet, one of the most competitive guys you'll meet, and that competitive attitude is why Brock, he's been so successful this year. You talk about him being maybe a little undersized in the grand scheme of things. Hasn't mattered. He'll go to those dirty areas. He always seems to find a way to push that puck over the goal line, and really well-deserved recognition from around the American Hockey League for Angus Crookshank.
Yeah, and he's been the type of guy that can be the heart and soul of a team, and he definitely has been a heartbeat of this Belleville Sens team. Got his chance in the NHL with Ottawa as well, scored in one of his first games, and it was, I believe, the first game under Jacques Martin, too, if I'm not mistaken, after the coaching switch up in Ottawa with the parent club. But Angus has definitely worked hard to get to this position. Of course, he missed a whole season back in 2021-22 with a knee injury. He comes back, has a great year last year, spends his entire year in Belleville, really expands his development curve last year for a team that just got eked out of the postseason picture. This year, he's stepping in, and he's one of the top guys and the faces that everybody knows and recognizes on this Belleville team, with the likes of Igor Sokolov, alongside the likes of Dylan Hetherington and Josh Curry, veteran guys that have become part of the fabric of this Belleville Sens team. And Angus Crookshank is one of those guys that if you watch him in Ottawa or wherever a couple years down the line, you'll remember him being here, and you'll remember where you were when you saw him be such a key force of this Belleville Sens team. He's just been an outstanding player, and a guy that you can tell is truly a good teammate too. He's humble, like you said. He knows he's a good player, but he's not going to go and brag about it. He's just going to be the type of guy that plays his game very honorably, and he can stand up for himself too. We saw him drop the mitts with a Rochester player there last weekend, and he's a tough guy. He's not very big, like you said, but he's stocky, he's strong on his skates, and he's tough in the corners and along the boards. And of course, but his favorite spot is right between the dots, where he can fire shots top shelf like he has, and he's a very crafty playmaker as well. All in all, he's just been the consummate professional and a key piece to David Bell's offense.
If you haven't yet, I think we talked about this on the show on the weekend too, but head over to the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network, the Belleville Sens YouTube page, and there's a great two-part Road to the AHL for Mackey Insurance series that Garrett Harvey and Alex Smith from our digital team put together following Angus through the All-Star Classic. There's a fantastic interview with his mom as well that just gives you some really good insight into the type of player, the type of person that he is. And again, one more congratulations to Crooker on all the accolades he's achieved this season, but I know his focus is on getting this team into the playoffs and deep. The playoff picture is our next topic when we come back to finish up episode 14 of season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Stay with us. We're back in just a sec on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.
March. Make or break time with playoffs around the corner. Be there for your Belleville Senators.
Into the Belleville zone high slot. Look out! He just got clobbered by Tyler Clevin.
Saturday, March 16th, 7 p.m. Sens play the Bridgeport Islanders, AHL affiliate of the New York Islanders, for Road to the AHL Night by Mackey Insurance. Free limited edition Sens hockey cards for the first 2,500 fans. More in 2024 with your Belleville Senators. See BellevilleSens.com.
Go, Sens, go!
All right, into our final segment on episode 14, season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. David Foote, Brock Ormond here. We got you caught up on the last couple of weeks. You heard from Lynn Olson, the chair of Bay of Quinte Pride, and the reigning defending February Player of the Month in the American Hockey League, Angus Crookshank. Now time to take a look at the playoff picture. It's murky as ever, Brock, but one thing is clear through all of that mud. The Belleville Senators are in an excellent spot to make a strong push for to get past the play-in round, if you want to call it that, by finishing third or better, or B, to potentially have home ice in their first-round series if they can catch the Syracuse Crunch, who they trail by 6 points coming into the game here, here this week. So as of right now, Cleveland sitting in first at 72 points. They had a win on Monday. They're followed by Syracuse at 67, so 5 points back of first. After that is Belleville. They're 6 points back of Syracuse. And then the Rochester Americans in fourth. They are 3 points back of Belleville. Toronto just 4 points back of Belleville and 1 back of the Amerks in that final spot. And the Marlies with a 4-point cushion on Laval. and Utica, who are both tied with 53 points in the 6 and 7 spots, which would be the teams that miss the playoffs. Again, if you're unfamiliar with the American Hockey League playoff format, specifically the North Division, the top 5 teams get in. The first place team gets a bye into the quote-unquote second round. The 4th and 5th place teams will play a best-of-3 play-in round, and the 2-3 seeds will automatically move into that second round and play each other. The winner of the play-in series plays the number 1 team, which, again, right now would be the Cleveland Monsters. If the playoffs started today, Cleveland gets the bye. Belleville goes to Syracuse for a best-of-5 series in the quote-unquote second round. Rochester and Toronto play each other in the best-of-3, with the winner of that taking on Cleveland. That's if the playoffs started today, Brock, but a lot still can happen in the 18 games for Belleville, and teams like Toronto and Laval still have 20 to play. They've got games in hand as well.
Yeah, that's tight, and like you said, that's murky waters that Belleville's wading into. But I know things are a little different. Like once the playoffs start, the slate's wiped clean. Anything can happen. But I like Belleville's chances if the playoffs were to start today and they play Syracuse, because of the fact that they've been so successful this season against them. 4 wins against them, and I don't believe they've lost a single game against them, which is unbelievable to think about. They've really played Syracuse well, and they've always played them well. Last year they did, I know, too, but for some reason this year it just seems like Belleville has really been the kryptonite of the Syracuse Crunch, and they played really well in that building, which is not easy. The Upstate Medical University Arena is probably one of the tougher buildings in terms of getting momentum going and trying to cut through that loud crowd that the Crunch have behind them. So playing against Syracuse in the first or the second round, I guess, would not be the worst thing in the world for the Belleville Sens, especially when it's a short series. It's a 5-game set. So they only get 2 games at home, but like I said, it all goes back to the road atmosphere and the road attitude that you have to have is go in there and be a spoiler and go in there and just do whatever it takes to really silence the crowd, get them out of it, and get the Crunch out of the game as well, because at times it's been tough for Syracuse to gain any momentum against this Belleville Sens team. Last game they played each other here at CAA Arena, too, a 6-5 game, and Belleville showed that, they're a team that compared to some other teams like Syracuse, for instance, haven't scored a whole lot this season, but when the situation calls for it, they can, and they can also grind out those 2-1, 3-2 type of games as well because of their outstanding goaltending. So Syracuse is a team that I'm very interested to see going down the stretch. And Belleville, if they can surge ahead and win a bunch, they may very well pass Syracuse, especially if the Crunch go into a slump. So it starts this month, a couple games at least, so it should be a key set for them.
6 points back of the Crunch again coming into the week. They don't see Syracuse this week, but they do visit the Crunch next week, Friday, March 15th, and then Syracuse here for 2 games on April 6th and April 17th to round out the season series. Those will be extremely important once we get into the middle of April there. Brock mentioned it earlier on, just 3 games outside of the division in the next 2 months of the season. Bridgeport's here on the 16th of March. The Hartford Wolfpack are here on the 24th, and then the Springfield Thunderbirds come in on Friday, April 5th. These games aren't in the division, but that doesn't make them any less important, and especially in terms of trying to lower that magic number in clinching a playoff spot, and we'll give you those magic numbers and what they mean in a moment as well. But you got to beat everybody right now. The divisional games are important, but when those other teams come into town, you've got to put up strong performances and collect as many points as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every game is crucial from this point on. Every game is always crucial. They all count for the same, but the thing is, it's now March and April, and the Belleville Sens have to really buckle down here. They've done really well this season. They have had their pitfalls, but like they are right now, they're on a 5 wins in 6 games, nice little run, and they've won those games outside of the one against Rochester, against North Division opponents. But they've played a couple tough teams. Like Bridgeport is down low in the opposite division, but they played Belleville tough, beat them earlier in the year. You got Springfield outside the division. They won against Belleville earlier this year, but that was before the Sens really, I don't want to say found their identity, but certainly played a much different style of game back then. And the first couple of months are always tough to get going, especially for a team that had a lot of movement like the Sens organization has. So again, key thing to remember is those games all count for the same. They all got to be 2 points taken away and then put in the bank every single time. You're not going to win every game, but you certainly have to compete, and you got to put yourself in a position to win. You can't put yourself behind 3, 4, 5 nothing early on and then be expected to come back. Belleville's got the horses to do it, but it's never an easy thing when you're behind, especially not at this point in the year when every game is going to be so tight, so crucial. It almost feels like you're in a best-of-5 series in the last couple months of the year every week.
Yeah, it feels like playoff hockey from February on in the North Division always because of how tight it is. Here's the magic number situation, and for those unfamiliar, the magic number is the number of points needed by a team to either clinch a playoff berth, clinch the division, or clinch the conference. We're just going to worry about clinching a playoff berth at this point. Team's magic number is reduced when it earns standings points or when the team with the highest possible total outside of the playoff picture fails to earn standings points. So right now, both Laval and Utica are tied. They're both the highest point total team outside of the playoff picture. So if either of them lose points or if the Belleville Senators gain points, their magic number shrinks. And as of right now, again, this is Tuesday morning, the 5th of March. The Belleville Senators' magic number to clinch a playoff berth is 33 points. And I always like to look at the fact that Belleville has 36 points to gain. So there's a little bit of breathing room there. And as we said off the top of the show, it puts them in a comfortable spot in terms of clinching, but they can still control a lot in terms of A, clinching quickly and not having to worry about it, and B, potentially moving up the standings and getting themselves home ice in the first round.
Yeah, that'll be so crucial for sure when you got all those games in hand. You got games against opponents in your own division, and yeah, absolutely. I don't see any reason why Belleville couldn't go on another hot run or keep their hot run going and take down a Syracuse team that they've had their number against for sure. But then you go into and we'll talk about it shortly here, Toronto and Utica, two tough buildings, two really, really good teams, and you know everything is all out on the table now. So the Belleville Sens have the ability to go hard all the way, and if they can have a nice little push and get home ice advantage, I mean, it's nice to be able to win on the road, but obviously you want to have that home ice, home cooking, I guess, if you will. And the CAA Arena crowd, we love to see people out and proud for the last little bit of the season and hopefully give them that little push and give people a taste of what to expect for the playoff run.
We'll talk about this on next week's show as well, because looking at the schedule, it seems like we'll be able to get one in next Monday or Tuesday, but March break is coming up, and the Belleville Sens and Big Red Bow Digital Marketing are offering families a buy one, get one deal for our 2 games on March break. So that's Wednesday, March 13th against Utica, and Saturday, March 16th against Bridgeport, which is Mackey Insurance Road to the AHL night. Free hockey cards at that game. But if you head to BellevilleSens.com, basically the deal is you buy an adult ticket for either of those games, you'll get a free kids ticket for either of those games. So that's a fantastic deal, along with the usual family packs and the McDonald's packs and more. So head to BellevilleSens.com. Season seat renewals are open as well. You can renew your season seats or become a season seat member for the first time. Some perks and benefits if you do that inside the month of March. Again, all the info at BellevilleSens.com under the Ticket Hub, or you can send an email to tickets@BellevilleSens.com for more. Maybe we'll wrap things up, Brock, just on the keys to the week here for the Senators. The early 11 a.m. game against Toronto on Wednesday, and then on the road to Utica to take on the Comets on Saturday. A team that's, trying to catch Belleville, and then another team that's just trying to squeak its way into the playoffs. How can the Sens be successful this week?
They can be successful by sticking to what worked on Saturday in particular. That, like I said, that had to have been one of the best, if not the best, defensive efforts of the year. Held Rochester to 23 shots, and that's a team with a lot of offense at its disposal with the likes of, Linus Weissbach, Yuri Kulik, Isak Roseanne, among many, many others. And they come in, they shut them down. They got to continue that on into Toronto, especially take those screaming kids out of it, because it's going to be... It's going to be so difficult, and it'll be an early wake-up call. They definitely will be ready to go for that, or should be for that game. And, of course, it's the Marlies, too. It's always going to be a good battle between those two teams. And maybe you got some retired Sens fans that will come down and make that early trek or come the night before and tune in and try to cheer on the team as well. So that'll be great. And then, of course, the next game against Utica, another team that Belleville's really done well against this year. Definitely that's a hostile environment. So, again, the same thing is to take the crowd out of it early and get those early goals, because Friday night we saw when Belleville had a good start to the game, which was outstanding. They had a great start to the game, and then all of a sudden things just kind of petered out when Rochester scored 2 goals in a minute and a half or so. So definitely keep the start going and try and get up on an early lead and then shut it down like they did against the Amherst, because that's one way to get victories at this point in the year and show that they can absolutely win and any style as well, like we've seen all this season. But Toronto and Utica are 2 teams that have given Belleville a tough time, but the Sens have passed those tests with flying colors so far. So they got another 2 big ones coming up, and I have no doubt that the Sens will be able to bank 2 more points, or at least keep progressing to get those big victories and keep themselves afloat.
If you're looking to follow the action, we're on the air from Toronto at 10:50 a.m. on Wednesday the 6th of March, and then the more traditional 6:50 p.m. from Utica on the 9th of March. That is Saturday. And again, you can get the game on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network or AHL TV as the Sens push towards the playoffs. We'll be back again next week with another episode, recap you on those couple of games, plus get you set for 3 more contests next week, Utica and Bridgeport at home, and again, the March Break BOGO Pack available for both those games, plus a trip to Syracuse sandwiched in between those. So looking forward to chatting again next week. For now, enjoy the games this week. Thanks as always to Brock Ormond and to you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week on the Belleville Sens podcast when we hit episode 15 of Season 2.